Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Bree Buonomo. Hi if you're new here, or hey if you've been here before. Today I'm going to be talking about some fun topics, which is really just me reacting to the fellow writing community's responses to what their fears or things they're not looking forward to in the publishing industry. I was actually thinking about this for myself initially when I was thinking about this video. I was going to talk about what I wasn't looking forward to, but really I didn't have too many, especially because I'm at a different stage and I'm not at the next step yet, and I think there would be more things when eventually I get to the next step. But I thought it would be fun to kind of use community responses as well, because I love watching videos like this where everyone else gets to kind of participate in them. So I'm like, I'm gonna do that, and I think this is gonna be fun. So I polled my Instagram community and asked them just what are some things that they are not looking forward to being a published author or pursuing publishing. And I got some great responses. So I am just going to sit back and discuss some of these and kind of give my response to that, and kind of if I agree with it, if I've been there, etc. So we are going to kind of start with just whatever is at the top and work my way through and just give some responses. So here we go. Okay, so the first response that I got, that something that someone wasn't looking forward to in publishing, was querying and getting rejected. So this is actually one that I've been through already, so I can't really say that I'm not looking forward to it. In a way, I know it's probably going to happen again because that's just life. But yeah, I was definitely in this boat not long ago. I've already said this many times on my channel, but last year I actually did attempt my first round of querying. We queried 14 people and got all rejections, which was, at first, it was exhilarating and exciting to be out there and querying. And then the first couple rejections came in, and that was kind of hard to deal with. And then after the fourth one, we were just all right, here we are. I think the worst part of it was that there were some agents that were out of the office or just really backed up. So we got the initial pop in the first month where we were getting steady rejections. And I say we because it was my co-written project that we were querying. So it was me and my co-writer. But after that first month, it really started slowing down, but we were still getting rejections 4 months out. And it was at that point, it was oh my God, why? Can you just let us die in peace? But yeah, I think, like I said, I definitely feel this one because getting rejected for anything sucks. I made an entire video on rejection earlier this month, which I'll link in the card above. You can go check it out. But yeah, I think it's a natural fear, but it's just one of those things where once you get in the flow of things, you have to just be confident in yourself, and getting rejected is just a normal part of the process. So am I nervous to be rejected again in the future? Absolutely. Because again, I pour my heart and soul into my writing, and it does suck when it doesn't connect with someone else. But I just have to look at that as it's not the right story, it's not the right time, or it's not the right agent. And eventually I'll find my way. The second worry of other people was the business side is just so much to deal with. So I think this might be more for the self-publishing route personally, and I could be wrong because I'm pursuing traditional publishing, and part of the reason I'm pursuing traditional publishing is because of that business side. I'm not a business person, and I will say that there was a caveat to this one that they said that they are a business major, so that definitely is beneficial, and I think having some business background would certainly help you if you're a self-published author. I personally, part of the reason I want to be traditionally published is because I'm not confident in that stuff. I feel like I can probably do it okay, but it would be so much better with a team behind me that is their job, is to market and get yourself out there. So that's part of the reason I'm traditionally publishing. However, I do know to some degree that there are some things as even a traditionally published author that you may want to do or you may have to do on your own. I think DONNE has a pretty good video on this, and if I could find it, I'll link it below. But I believe in her video, it was a long time ago, she talked about how she would make her own bookmarks and kind of make little things to give out at events that her publisher was not able to provide for her. And that's still to some degree a business part of side of things, and I think I can manage that. But if I was self-publishing, that whole aspect absolutely would terrify me too. It's definitely something that It's just not my forte. I'm good at marketing and talking to people and communicating and writing, I hope. That is where I'm much stronger. So me networking and like convincing people to buy my stuff, I think I would be better at, rather than me trying to do all the load work of like finding an editor and finding a cover artist and then putting everything together, making sure they're publishing and like getting the proofs and all of that stuff. That does seem daunting. So for anyone that's going like self-publishing, I give you all the credit in the world, because that is why I don't want to self-publish. The next thing that someone said that they aren't looking forward to with publishing is the endless search for agents and research on how you find agents. So I do think that this is one that depends on your niche. For me, because I've already experienced this once as well, I really love researching the heck out of stuff. And granted, I did this with a co-writer, so we were kind of going back and forth and having conversations. But I think the one thing that helped me with that pressure of researching and finding things is just having someone there. And whether or not we were co-writing or just a friend to bounce ideas off of, having someone else to kind of like relay this information, it ended up being really fun for me. And I did this by myself too. I wasn't always with my co-writer researching stuff, but I would get like super excited because like I would like kind of just follow down a rabbit hole where I would find one person and then like they would be maybe a little bit connected to me, but then I would like find someone else, and then I would find like all of these like cool things that we had in common, and that would just get me really excited to query and get ready. So it ended up being such a fun aspect of like trying to find, it's almost like a puzzle piece. Like you're trying to find someone that connects with you, and it's like so exciting to be like, oh my god, they have so much in common with me, or oh my god, they're wanting what my novel is. So for me, it sounds daunting because you do have to take a lot of time to research. You really just can't shoot in the dark with agents, because you want to make sure that not only their personality fits you, but that they are looking for the book that you are writing. If they are not in your genre, it's going to look very poorly on you that you did not do your research and just queried anyone that you found. So that part, like getting past that, is definitely daunting, but once you are, I think it could be so much fun. So that's what I would just say, is just someone who's already been there, is just have fun with it. I'm not gonna lie, I'm trying to plan how to query my next book, and I'm already getting excited about researching agents again, because this is it's a little bit of a different genre, and it's a little bit different from where I queried last time. So like I'm really excited to find someone who like matches me. And there's always the prospect that the people that I had queried before, I do want to kind of go back and look at them again to see if there is anything that would stick, because this is a different novel. You are allowed to query people a second time if you've either made significant changes and or have a different book. So yeah, I'm excited to see if any of my past agents would fit this current book that I'm working on, and if so, like, even better, right? Before I move on to the next one too, this was definitely something that I was thinking about possibly talking about. So if you guys are interested, I would totally love to make a video on how I researched agents and how I made my spreadsheet and all of that stuff. So if that's something that you'd be interested in, definitely let me know down below, because I would totally be open to making that video. Okay, so the next like fear or something that someone wasn't looking forward to was just in general the uncertainty of it. I can understand. So I think the biggest issue with publishing, and that means whether you're self-publishing, indie publishing, or traditional publishing, everything and every step of the way is uncertain. You are never guaranteed anything in this field, and I think that's why it's always good to keep your expectations middle of the road, because it's great if you can exceed them, but also, you know, you don't want them to be too low as well. But no matter what step of the way you're at, you are going to have uncertainty. Just because you might get an agent on your first try doesn't mean that you're going to be able to sell your book to anyone. And just because you sell your first book to someone doesn't mean you're going to be able to sell your second book. And it doesn't mean that if you sell your second book, it's going to be to the same publishing house, and so on and so forth. It is really tricky, and I think you really have to have a strong will to be in this field. It certainly is something to consider before you start pursuing, especially just traditional publishing. Before you start traditional publishing, you have to make sure that you can handle that uncertainty. And that's really the only advice that I have on this. It sucks. I certainly don't look forward to it either, because I would love to be able to like one day query, get an agent, and like have everything smooth sailing. But I know realistically that's not going to happen. So I just have to kind of push that fear to the side and just be like, I don't have time for you, and I'm not going to acknowledge you until it happens. So yeah, I totally understand that one. I love this one as well, this next one, because again, it kind of falls into the same thing. And it was just like figuring out how everything works and pretty much all of what goes into publishing and trying to publish. I think when you are a newer writer and you haven't even, like if you just started writing and you haven't even thought about pursuing anything, whether it's self-publishing or traditional publishing, because they're two different routes and they have two different demands on them. When you are just starting in that position, it is literally the most daunting thing I think I've ever experienced. This is part of the thing that I liked about starting my channel, is because I've gone through a lot of this and I really took the time to learn. And that meant like literally sometimes hours and hours of just researching, watching YouTube videos, reading through Reddit, subreddits, and like all of that kind of stuff. So the best thing that I would definitely say, because this isn't one that I currently have just because I've done a lot of it, is just do your research and take your time. There is literally no rush, and that's the hardest thing to tell someone who is so excited to get their work out there, is that you do not have to rush. Everything is within your own time. If you're not ready to query, it's okay. But in the meantime, you can kind of take all of your experience and all your thoughts and research it and just kind of figure out some stuff. Obviously, the more you network, the more opportunities you have to talk to people who are going through it. So for instance, like I have some videos on my channel, like with querying and what's the difference between beta readers and critique partners. So there's definitely like different things like that you can look, because I know I'm not the only one who has that kind of content. So go watch a video and learn a little bit more. I have an entire video about how to be a productive writer without writing. In that video, I recommended to listen to some podcasts that are writing specific, because that helped me a lot. I started to understand the industry a lot more by listening to those podcasts. I will link all those videos down below, because I think you have to start somewhere. And that's the key with anything in life, right? You have to start at one specific area and continue working your way up. When you look at the big picture, it is very scary and anxiety producing. But if you just break it down a little bit, it makes it more manageable. There's my advice on that one. I don't know how this turned into an advice video. Like, I had intended to be like reaction and like share like, oh yeah, I agree. But I ended up so far going, like a lot of these ended up being just, I've been there. The next one on this list was the pressure to write another book. They specifically said that they're a slow drafter, and this is one that I can relate to, because I think obviously, again, my goal is to be traditionally published, and with traditional publishing versus self-publishing, you make your own timeline. And of course, it's a lot easier and better as a self-publisher to be able to produce things at a very strict pace. But at the same time, you're still making that pace. No one else is. With traditional publishing, that is definitely a fear of mine, is with a job that I have, and granted I'm switching jobs, so it's going to be more manageable, but you're still adding so much time and commitment to writing books. And once you get that first book deal, if you are locked into like 2 books, for instance, if you get a 2-book deal, then that pressure starts that you have to make deadlines, and you have to make many deadlines. And granted, I think I'm really good with deadlines personally, and I can't necessarily say for my writing, even though I do set deadlines and I try to make them, but there's no pressure from like a higher person telling me to. And my job, when there's a higher person telling me to, I meet demands like crazy, because I do not like to be late on everything. So it definitely is a concern of mine. I just know how I react, and I think I might be able to perform better. But I think too, if traditional publishing is the route you're going, it's all about communication still. Like if you can communicate that like you need to get an extension, or I'm really struggling with this part. I mean, a lot of that is going to be communication. And even if like you just needed to get like your deadline 1 for your first round edits, then keep in mind that you're going to have like second round edits. And if something's not perfect, like you communicate with your team as far as, you know, the editor or the agent or whoever you need to communicate with, of like, this is where I'm struggling. And also you have critique partners for that reason too. Like if you're trying to make a deadline, but you're really stuck somewhere, like you should have options to be able to kind of converse and get feedback on whether or not you should change something or add something or take it out completely. Again, I think it's so easy to get in that mindset that writing books and being an author is a singular production, when really when it gets after your first draft or your first couple drafts, it's not anymore. So maybe that'll help you kind of reframe that deadline into understanding that it's kind of a group effort by that point anyway. So that's what I'm going to do for my own benefit, whether or not that comes true or not, because again, I'm not traditionally published and I'm not even agented. So my advice here is just completely speculation. So if anyone is a traditionally published author and can correct me if this was completely wrong, do so in the comments. You know, I don't want to be lying to anyone, but this is just my speculation based on what I'm talking about and what I've researched. So yeah, anywho, I'll stop rambling on this one. And the last one that I received, which I also think it kind of goes back to one of the first ones that we got, was just dealing with rejections from agents with no feedback. So this is also my worst nightmare and something that I've experienced firsthand 14 times. When I queried with my co-writer, we did 14 different requests and got all form rejections, and it sucked. It was literally the hardest thing to deal with because we were left in limbo. We never knew if it was our query letter, if it was the fact that our first pages sucked, if the query letter and the first pages didn't make sense to people. Like, we had no way to grasp and understand how exactly we needed to change our work for the better. We did try to improve it, and we definitely went back and edited and rewrote stuff, but it's all speculation. And there's nothing to say that, you know, those 14 rejections that we got, that maybe if we sent it out to a 15th person, that they would have given us something more. We didn't. Pretty sure our query letter absolutely was trash, and that meant that we had to go back to the drawing board over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I'm still not sure that our query letter is good. But we do have a very vivid and high fantasy concept, which might just not be marketable at this point in our career. And that could be a factor too. So it's definitely a lot. I just think making sure that you have really good critique partner feedback and then having really good beta reader feedback. And personally, I always recommend that your beta readers are not family and friends, because as much as you can say like, oh, they're so objective, they will never be objective. They are going to not want to hurt your feelings. They are going to want to cheer you on. So it is really, really important that your critique partners are someone who are going to be honest with you, and then your beta readers are nobodies. So I have another whole video on that concept of how you find beta readers. You can go watch that. But I think if you can get really good feedback along the way, then when you finally get to the querying stage, you have the best chance at getting some more personalized feedback than a form rejection. With me and having pretty much, like, I definitely used resources for the query letter, but the concept and the query letter were not, it wasn't working. It was really, really hard because we had a really big idea and we were trying to pare it down into something small. And I just don't think we succeeded in the first attempt. So that's where I think I went wrong. So we redid a lot of stuff, and we rewrote, literally, I already said this, but we wrote our query letter many times. And we still haven't queried at this point with that query letter that we wrote because we wanted to sit on it again and get more feedback. Like I said, I think it is definitely hard when you don't get any information, but don't take it too personally. Agents are very busy. The best thing that I think is that when you look at how busy they are, if they're giving you a form rejection, then that likely means that they just didn't connect with whatever you were saying. So it could mean that you have to revamp your query letter a little bit, make it make more sense, and or you have to revamp your first pages. And I would just say, if you get like me and you're at 14, 15 form rejections, it's got time to go back to the drawing board. And that's just kind of, it sucks, and it's one of those hardest things to face, but that's reality at the end of the day. So yeah, I totally understand. So those were all the main responses that I got on Instagram. The only thing that I am going to do now is I'm just going to add one of my own that is super, super niche, but something that I am certainly not looking forward to if I ever get to be a published author with an agent and a publishing deal. And that is newsletters. Sounds so stupid, but hear me out. So there's nothing to say that if you're a published traditional author or an indie author that you have to have a newsletter. For me, I love networking on Instagram and not so much Twitter, but a little bit on Twitter and YouTube. Those are like my big platforms that I love to kind of associate with people on. Newsletters are not something that I would ever look forward to. Would I consider it being a published author down the road? Sure. But it just seems super tedious. And I know how I am. I want things to look very, very pretty. And some people have beautiful newsletters, and some you can just tell are like the bare minimum. And it works for whoever wants to work for. But I don't even really like receiving many newsletters from authors. I would rather just go to their Instagram and look them up. So that is just something that I always think of, like way down the road, is me trying to get a newsletter together to just be able to send out to people who want it. I'm not looking forward to that personally. If I can ever get to a place where that is my main concern, then I'm gonna take it. But as of now, that's really the only thing that I like is on the back burner, that I'm like, do I have to do this to be a real author? Like, is anyone gonna want this? Do I have anything to say other than like, hey, this is what we're doing? Because honestly, my YouTube channel, that is essentially what I would like my newsletter to be, where I'm like updating and providing insight and providing like good conversations. So we will definitely see down the road if, you know, that is something that I will end up eventually considering doing. But that is one thing that I would not want to look forward to. Let me know if you're in the same boat, whether you are trying to be traditionally published or you're agented or you have a newsletter. Let me know. So yeah, there you have it. Those are my responses to everyone's least favorite or what they're not looking forward to being a published author. I hope this was a fun and different video and that you guys might have either learned something or had some kind of takeaway. And let me know down in the comments below if either you have something that's not on this list that you're not looking forward to, or if you have anything to add with some of the ones we talked about. And until next time, I'll see you then. Bye.